Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Paul. I'm going to butcher your name. I should have asked you this before we started recording. Makiewicz. Paul served 3 years in the Army as an E4 and was the only one of 6 kids to carry service into the next generation. His journey from a young man searching for direction after 9/11 to building a multi-million-dollar company with no startup cash or investors is nothing short of inspiring. Paul's career path has been shaped by his experience in the military and his willingness to ask the hard questions that most people avoid, opening doors that others might miss. He's the founder of Honorable Marketing, a business that grew out of necessity when the marketing company he was working for collapsed after its financial backer was sentenced to prison. With no options left, Paul stepped up, founded his own company, and now leads a successful business. Paul's going to share how the discipline and honor he learned in the military have guided him through both his personal and professional life. His story is a testament to resilience, and he's here to offer insights into overcoming challenges, embracing risk, and finding opportunities where others see obstacles. Join us as we learn from a man dedicated to honoring the backbone of America, service members and entrepreneurs, and discover how he's on the track to triple the size of his company while also pursuing a public speaking career. So let's dive in and warmly welcome Paul Makiewicz, a true embodiment of what it means to be a strategic veteran. Paul, brother, thank you for being here this afternoon, man.
Dude, you nailed the last name, though. It's very good.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, Mackiewicz.
Oh, yes.
Or if you want to go Polish, it's Mackiewicz.
I'm Americanized.
Yeah, the Americanized version is Mackiewicz.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about, where did you grow up? And obviously, I think 9/11 shaped your decision to join, but what else kind of inspired you to join the military?
Yeah, so I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
It's cold up there. No, thank you.
Hey, practically Canadian. I'm a diehard Bills fan to this day.
They're looking good.
Oh, we're awesome. I love it. I mean, my entire upbringing was watching the Bills lose Super Bowls. So I was born in '83. So from 90 to 94, watching the Bills lose all those Super Bowls, so it was like very formative years.
It was the Bill Parcells years, right?
Well, Marv Levy was the coach of the Bills, but
Okay.
Bills lost to the Giants under Parcells. And
That's right. Yeah.
To the Redskins and the Cowboys twice. Not like I still remember all that stuff, you know. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York. Really had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to play in the NBA until, I stopped growing at 5'9", and
that's a problem we all have, right?
Yeah. And I never really had that great of mentors. My parents were wonderful, absolutely awesome family. I'm one of 6 kids, but I was also the youngest boy, middle child. By that time, I'm sure my parents had gotten railroaded and beat down by the rest of my siblings. So I was kind of left to not necessarily raise myself, but I was a latchkey kid, right? Like, get home, make your own macaroni and cheese and hot dogs, sit down, go outside, play in the woods. Very, very free. I certainly had discipline, but it was much more an experiential upbringing, I would say. So, and I think that stays with me to this day. And so I went to school, changed my major 4 times as a freshman. I had no idea what I wanted to do at all. So, and I was pretty much about to flunk out, even though I've always been one of those like smart kids that, I never really had to try all that hard. I could just knock out homework in a homeroom or some study halls. and never did homework at home, never studied for any tests, never did any of that, and still ended up as a low 90s student.
You bastard.
Yeah, it was one of those just like unfairly, but I pay attention, right? Like, I my Spanish teacher, I still remember taking AP Spanish, and she called me a sloth because I had like high 70s, low 80s in the class because I never did homework, never did anything, and then I go and took the Regents exam and scored a perfect score, and she's like, so you knew everything, you just didn't care. I was like, nah, I guess not. So anyways, one of those kids, and I was always a good athlete, so kind of rested my laurels and playing sports, being kind of a friend to everyone, that type of kid. And went to college. Really had no idea what I wanted to do. And 9/11 happened while I was in college, and I was working at Dick's Sporting Goods selling golf equipment. And Stu came up, and as any good recruiter does, seeing a lost soul at 19 years old or so, working retail. A couple weeks later, I just showed up at my parents' house and was like, "Hey, join the military. I leave in 2 weeks." Shocked them, obviously. Shocked all my friends. Didn't really consult with a single person on it. Just decided, hey, I need to get some direction in my life. Also, it'd be nice to have some college money and kind of figure this out. So, the other kind of inspiration behind my life was my grandfather. He super awesome dude. Taught me how to golf. I still love golf to this day. I play regularly, play in the VGA, the Veterans Golf Association. So
Nice. I'm terrible, so I just go to hang out with my friends.
it's an addicting sport, man. Especially if you like sports psychology. It's all up here. But he was a tanker in World War II. My dad was in the Air Force National Guard. So I'm third generation military, and no one else in my family joined the military. My dad didn't really push it. My dad didn't really talk about it all that much. My grandfather used to talk about it a little bit with me while he was teaching me how to golf, and kind of some of the life lessons of that the wise old grandfather would impart on me. Some of them I still reference today. Like, the only thing I know for sure is I know I don't know shit. That's one of his favorite,
that's a good one.
phrases.
Yeah.
And so, having that curiosity about a lot of things, but also humility and kind of understanding that we're all growing constantly. It makes you a little more empathetic to the world, a little bit more understanding of other people, while also still, having that humility to yourself. So, so I got into the military, did basic and AIT in Fort Sill. I was a computer operator for field artillery. So I was the smart guy, blowing things up. One of those things, when I enlisted, it was scored in the top 1% of the ASVAB, and he was like, "Yeah, you could do this job, this job, this job." I'm like, "What do you got for 2 years?" He's like, "Infantry," and I was like, "What do you got for 3 years?" Like, computer operator.
You said straight up no to infantry. I'm insulted right now.
Well, when you score the top 1% of the ASVAB, you hope that you're not going to do infantry, right? Like, that's.
I mean, I scored high on the ASVAB and I still picked infantry. The helicopters and all that shit got me. The traditional recruiting videos got me.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. They put a lot of propaganda and psychological.
That's exactly what it is too, because little did I know that in garrison you're just going to be a fucking janitor.
Yeah. I mean, I did my job maybe a dozen times. But the rest of my job, I was practically MP, practically I was training the Iraqi police force while I was deployed most of the time. So but yeah, so I did my basic AIT. I got out less than 2 months into my unit at 2nd ACR in Fort Polk, Louisiana. I was on my way to Kuwait, and then I was in Iraq for a little over a year. So early on, I would say awesome upbringing, kind of I don't want to say like gifted, but like I understood that I had a certain level of potential to me that I was not tapping into, and looking for ways to do that, looking for ways to, be the hero of the story, looking for ways to be patriotic and proud of myself, and that led me into the military.
I love it, man. So never even looked at any other branches. It was just first recruiter that you saw, found the lost soul that you were, and here's the Army.
I am the smartest dumb kid you'll ever meet. So one of my friends actually said that direct quote to me. He goes, "You are the smartest dumb kid I know." I'm like, "That's great." And that's how I ended up in the Army. Obviously, looking back, I wish I'd gone to the Air Force. Yeah.
Yep. Every time, man. And it sucks because my sister and her husband both Air Force, and I just like, I'm 5 years older than my sister, and she went the college route, so she did ROTC. So I had about almost a decade in the Army before she even commissioned. And I just got to watch her career and all the leave that she had and all the freedom that she had. And she's always doing something cool. And I was like, man, I really fucked up on this one. I really fucked it up on this one. So now my advice to people when they ask me, I'm not against anybody going to any branch of the military, but my sound advice is go to college first, become an officer, because the potential to make more money, the options that you have, the usefulness of whatever your job's going to be when you get out, but also the Air Force, because I just watched my sister's career and how awesome it was. And I was like, man, mine sucked in comparison. Like things like she's always on leave, but I ended up like losing 60 days of leave because I couldn't sell any more back when I got out, that kind of shit.
Jeez.
So
were you Army infantry?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yep. For about the same. I don't know, what year did you come in?
03.
Yeah, I came in 03 as well. I was in from June of 03 to November of 15.
No, I did my 03 to 06. I got out.
You got out. Yeah. You mentioned in the questions that you answered to come on that you witnessed a troubling event involving fellow soldiers and a prisoner, I assume on a deployment. So let's talk about how that shaped your outlook on the military life and your path forward after that, because I imagine that probably had a big sway on your decision to stay in or get out.
Yeah. It's funny. I honestly don't think about my time in the service very much at all. I'm not. I mean, sure, we all have like some embedded trauma or however you want. I don't even like using the word trauma, but like embedded aspects of ourselves that come from our time in the service. And I knew pretty early on that this wasn't a career for me, but a lot of the reasons I enlisted was to get that college money, figure out what I wanted to do, figure out where it could be useful in the world. And when I say like I was lost, I truly was. But I think a lot of people are lost at that age, right? Like none of us. And I'm always very jealous of those people that like you ask at 9 years old and they're like, I want to be a doctor. I'm like, that's great.
Right.
Like, fuck you. I thought I was going to play in the NBA at that point. Like, right. Like, and I wish somebody had told me, hey, probably not going to work out. Right. But a lot of the formative pieces that came from the military, I think it's twofold. One, in my life, I've never had very many good mentors. And even in the military. Like I felt like my CO was kind of a loose cannon, got a lot of us into danger for no reason. I feel like my NCOs weren't, I don't know. It's kind of one of those, you get promoted to the level of incompetency. I felt a lot of them were kind of in that bucket. Super nice guys, great guys, but I spent half my time like trying to keep my NCO out of trouble, like covering for him, being, and so that immediately kind of put me into a leadership role within my like the FTC unit.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of having that wherewithal of having a good like ethical upbringing. Like I said, my parents are great. I grew up, even though now looking back at it and kind of when you start realizing the world is the way it is and why it is the way it is, I had a very Catholic upbringing, church every Sunday, most weeks, also on Wednesday, Catholic school, grade school, did all the things, altar boy, all the things. But it does kind of ingrain in you like an empathy for all people. Like you should really look out for people. Like if you don't know, it's also one of the things, like we have this depression problem in our nation, and I think so much of that comes from just the selfishness and the self-serving aspect of our society. People always saying like hustle and grind and do you, right, and your feelings matter more than truth, than reality, right? And a lot of that is just selfishness. It's just self-serving, and no wonder we have a depression problem, is because like if you're depressed, go serve somebody. You will feel better. I guarantee you will feel better if you go and serve.
It's the ultimate medicine to help somebody, and just that feeling that you get, even if it's just like just an incremental something, you have an impact that improves their life in the smallest way. You get to feel good about that because they're going to let you know that that helped them, and it just lifts you up so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same thing. Like if you feel like crap, go work out. You'll feel better. You'll be sore for an hour or two, but you will feel better. Get some sweat going. You will, and it's it it's kind of mind blowing to me how much one like, and not to make this political or anything, but if you're looking to the government to be your mommy and daddy, your guidance, your rule makers, your guardrails, you're looking to a corrupt system and hoping that you'll be somehow incorrupted by it. But yeah, if you look at the family unit, if you look at doing things out of service, if you from a Christian standpoint or a God-fearing standpoint or a following any deity that you believe loves you standpoint, they
Just a
all tell you to,
spiritual standpoint,
spiritual
yeah.
standpoint, they all tell you to serve. They all tell you that we are here to lift each other up in some way. And so to go into the military and kind of having that foundation of service and being good to others, and being naive at 19 years old, enlisting, talking to the very first recruiter, like you could see how naive a kid I was, in the suburbs, a nice suburb kid, grew up with cornfields across the street. Getting there and having the mentality that I'm here to serve, I'm here to make the world better, I'm here to go get the bad guys that did this bad thing to us on 9/11, kind of having a little bit of a hero complex, and then to see the absolute clusterfuck that it was, and to see that other people had not enlisted under the same guise that I had of serving others and positively impacting the world, and that being a very foundational thing within me. And I'm not saying that to like be haughty or egotistical or anything. I truly think that's what humans are made to do, is to positively impact the world around us through some means, using your God-given talents and whatever way you can. And at that time, I didn't know what God-given talents I had, and I was hoping to find them. But I did know that if I served people and I treated others with respect and followed the golden rule and all that, I'd figure it out. I kind of had that trust, that level of trust in God and the universe, and to be there and to see just the lack of compassion that we had for every single person that we interacted with, it was pretty disheartening. And I don't think that came from necessarily the top, telling people to act that way, but it was a systemic, this is how things are done. And there was really no questioning to it. So when we would catch, bad guys, we knew there were bad guys. I still, would be as respectful or not necessarily compassionate towards them, but at least I wasn't a dick, right? Like I was, if I'm zip tying you and pushing you on the ground, I'm not slamming your face into a rock while I'm doing it. I'm at least like pushing you onto some grass or at least a not rock filled area of dirt, right? Like I wasn't horrible. I was pushing you into Constantine wire, quick made jail. I wasn't pushing you into the Constantine wire, but yeah. I was watching a lot of people do that. And I'd said something like, hey, what, like, why is this how we have to treat it? And like, well, it'd be situation already, right? Like, you don't know what that guy's got. I'm like, he's zip tied and we searched him and he doesn't have anything on him and he's wearing nothing but a very thin piece of man dress. Like, I think we're okay. I don't think we have to throw him. I don't think we have to punch him in the face as we're passing him in there. And so anyway, so it's kind of when the Abu Ghraib stuff came out. Yeah. Abu Ghraib. When that stuff came out, I had a few buddies ask me about it, and they're like, what do you think about this? I was like, I think that's probably tip of the iceberg. Like if if I was seeing, stuff just in I was in Sadr City, just northeast of Baghdad.
Oh yeah, up there, it's a great place, huh?
Oh my gosh, talk about a ghetto. I mean, insane. Something like 7 million people in this like 4x4 mile.
It's fucking shithole. Block. Yeah, it was a dangerous shithole too.
Yeah, it was no joke being over there. But even like my translator, I got a couple guys we all donated some money and we got him and his family out of that country. Like,
Nice.
So there's really awesome stuff that I got to take from it. And, I was still emailing and pen pal with this guy until just a couple of years ago, and I kind of fell out of contact. So it was like a 15, 20 year relationship that I had with my translator. So I can't say it was all bad, but you definitely learn who you are and who you aren't. And who I'm not is somebody that will take advantage of a situation to make myself feel powerful or to diminish someone else's power or living standard just solely off ego or wanting, at that moment, just having an opportunity where I'm not held accountable to something. I was not the type of person to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, a lot of other people were. And so looking back at my time, probably until I opened up my own business, most people wouldn't have even known I was in the military. I don't come across as like a military guy. I don't talk about it really to anybody except maybe my shrink, right? And even my wife, she didn't know when we'd been dating for, I don't know, probably like 7-8 months before she even knew. Like, we had already taken international trips before I was ever like, oh yeah, I was in the military for a few years. She's like, what? Like, because I had said something, I think it was on a trip to Italy, like, and we had been together for like 6-7 months. I had said something and she was like, oh, I didn't even know you were in the military. I was like, yeah. So I guess
Surprise.
I will. So yeah, it's not really something I talk about all that much, but it's extremely formative. It's impossible to say it's not formative, but in similar to how I look at mentors, I haven't had a whole lot of good mentors in my life where I'm like, oh, I want to be like that guy. But I've had enough shitty ones where I've been like, oh, well, I'm not fucking that, and I'm not gonna be like that. And you even though it's a negative experience overall, you're able to pull some positives out of it, of at least hoping to learn some lessons from the experience. And that's probably how I look at my military experience more than anything. Of, it reinforced that I'm on the right path because of how like the intuitive feelings that I kind of got going through it.
Dude, that's an excellent breakdown. I appreciate you being raw about that, because I don't think a lot of people really assess their careers in that manner and really spend some time to sit with it like that. I think, for me, I saw some of the stuff that you were talking about, but I also saw some of the other stuff that we did to actually, have empathy and compassion and lift people up. And right. So maybe that's the difference in length of time that we served. I did 4 total deployments, 3 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. So, I could see, some of your points. And the one thing that I really want to touch on is you said you knew pretty early on that it wasn't a career for you. I also enlisted in a similar manner to you. I was a lost soul, small town America, wanted out. That's at least the lie I told myself. Having reflected on it, I think everybody joins for the same reason. We all join to serve that thing that's bigger than ourselves. And I think it's a subconscious thing. I don't think that we ever realize it until we look back on it and then spend some time with it. But I signed a 6-year contract, and I knew at the end of it, like, hey, either I'll know this is for me or I won't know this is for me. Turns out it was for me. I very much enjoyed the Army. I loved the Army, in fact. Had a lot of great times, and, it's responsible for a lot of things in my life, and it's also responsible for a lot of bad things in my life as well. But, I think it's interesting that you knew early on, based on what, observations around you. And I think that's super important, because it's how we develop as leaders and shit like that. Right. So when it does come time, your 4 years are up, it's time to get out. How was the transition for you? Was it still rough, even though you knew you wanted out and you knew it wasn't a career for you?
Yeah. It was.
And the reason I ask this question to everybody that comes on is because I really don't believe it matters whether you do, you initially wanted like 2 years, right? I think 2 years is still enough, but 30 years, we all go through some element of the same things in transition. And I think the amount of people who don't have a hard transition is, you could probably count them or fit them in one hand, however you want to look at that metaphor, versus the overarching theme is most of us struggle, and we struggle a lot. So I'm just curious to hear, how you struggled, why you think that is, and kind of call attention to it so that others know that they're not alone in what they're facing.
Yeah, and I think it harkens back to your point too about going in as an officer. All my buddies that went in as officers all had much smoother transitions, than I certainly did as an enlisted. So I got out, I knew I wasn't going back to Buffalo. It's too damn cold up there. So I moved to Atlanta with a girlfriend at the time and started working. I went back to Dick's Sporting Goods and was like, well, I'll do this and I'll start going to college. I got this college money now. Might as well go use it. Even though I still wasn't really set on what I want to do. I did already start to feel a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit, but I wasn't exactly ready to I'm going to start a company, right? Because that's also our education system is shit in our country, and that's not. That's I wish
we can
someone
get into
at
that
some point.
in a minute. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute because I'm with you on that.
And so the fact that I didn't have any education in it, but I did know that I had potential to make a good impact on the world. I didn't know how to do it, but I did also. I love golf. I love the psychology behind it. I love that it's a single man sport, single man or woman.
You versus you, right?
It's you versus the course, right? And it's you versus nature. It's you. You're in a perfect. I think it's truly like the best analogy of any sport to life.
I think it's the lesson in presence, right? Full presence to be good at that sport.
Let go of what's happened in the past, everything. The problem solving, risk reward, it all kind of plays into it, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I love the sport so much to this day. And so I knew I wanted to get into the golf industry. That was about the only kind of career feeling that I was having. And so I went back to Dick's Sporting Goods. I started working in the golf department. Met a golf pro that and me and this guy hit it off right away. Super cool guy, probably the best mentor I've had in my life. So in just conversations with him, him kind of understanding me and a little bit about who I was as a human. He volunteered to be my professional. There's this thing called the PGM, Professional Golf Management, and you need someone that signs off on your paperwork and things like that. And so I went and I took the PGA player ability tests, and I got a qualifying score, and so I could join the program, and I became an assistant pro at a golf course, and it was great. Doing that, I was like, well, I'm gonna also need to get an education in this. Couldn't use my college money for the PGM program, so I figured, well, at least I'll go get maybe my degree in business administration or something like that. So I have a piece of paper that says that I went to school and I did join the military for this company. Yep. Check the box, yeah. And very Catholic mentality. I got to go check that box, right? And so I started going to school, and I had Army College Fund, and then I also had GI Bill. I had $33,000 Army College Fund plus GI Bill at the time was right around like $28,000. This was before the post 9/11. So I'll never forget this woman's voice. I'm dealing with them, getting my college money, start going to a nice university in Georgia called Kennesaw State, and I'm expecting, I'm a smart guy, could do math. 33,000 plus 28,000, so about 61,000 spread over 36 months. Okay, it's going to be about $2,000 a monat. Not enough to totally live on, but it's enough to pay college and at least, pay rent,
some food
somewhere, pay some food, so I'll still have to work, but I'll at least have my college paid for and things like this. So I start going to Kennesaw State, not a cheap school, especially because I was out of state tuition. I get my first check from the VA, because at that point they were still sending me the check, and then I would have to pay the school. Get my first payment, and it's like $980, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Where is the rest?
This is not right. And so I'm calling up the VA, and they're sending me back and forth with DFAS, and they're like, I'm getting sent around in circles, trying to figure this out. And then I finally get this woman, and I'll never forget her voice, sweet little Southern accent. She goes, you're not the first soldier I told this to, and I'm sure you won't be the last, but you were deceived by your military contract. That $33,000 is actually a combination of the two, the GI Bill and the Army College Fund, total of $33,000, not two separate things. And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, right? Like, I was quite pissed. And because I just spent 3 years of my life serving my country, and now they're going to try and screw me out of $28,000, which, to now is not a lot of money when you're 20 years old and you're trying to go to school, and it's a shit ton of money. It was everything. It was literally everything. So not only do I get out of the military, struggling in a new career, trying to go to school, getting paid half the money. So I end up dropping out of Kennesaw State, take night classes at a tech school, figure, okay, I'll just, I'll at least get my bachelor's, right? like I was lowering the bar constantly, and I was pretty angry about it. So much so that, like, if you Google my name in USA Today, you'll see where I got featured in an article about this whole thing. I was calling out every single person I could, cussing them out, cussing out congressmen. I had a congressman tell me to go fuck myself, saying this wasn't worth his time.
Because that's exactly what congressmen are supposed to be doing when their constituents are reaching out to try and solve problems.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's politicians for you. And it really messed me up pretty good. Messed me up for a while. Because I was exhausted. I was taking night classes 4 nights a week, plus working full time, plus just trying to survive. So obviously me and that girl didn't last all that long.
Of course not. No, it didn't.
I was probably not the best partner at that time. And I ended up finishing my bachelor's, and after 5 years of fighting for this money, I finally, and I was at like a pretty rough time in my life. I get a letter from the VA saying, hey, so this got added into the defense spending. It's for all the people that were in the situation similar to you. Which was so messed up about this is my award letter for my college fund, my ACF, was on a whole different sheet than your GI Bill. So it's like, here's your GI Bill, sign. Here's your ACF, sign. And then I go through and I get this situation. And so then I'm like, I'm on message boards. I'm researching. I'm trying to figure out like why this is. Is there anybody else that's going through the same thing as me? I find this woman who went through the exact same thing, exact same situation, even the exact same monetary amounts. She goes through, gets her military records corrected, and they give her the full amount. So I'm writing these people letters, trying to get my records corrected. I'm like, here's the example, same exact situation, same exact monetary amounts. And they're like, oh no, we can't, we're going to deny it because the DFAS hasn't allocated that funds. I'm like, okay. So I go to DFAS. The DFAS is like, well, we can't allocate the funds unless the VA tells us to. And then the VA is saying, so they're just sending me back and forth between the two. And finally I get a letter of them being like, okay, we've allocated funds for this. You have to submit this additional chunk of paperwork. So I go through and I submit everything. I finally get it. I'm letting all of any contact I have in the military know about the situation so that other people can get paid by it. And find out in the end that I don't remember the exact numbers at this point, but I've told the story a few times but it was something like 80,000 people between whenever the contracts were between, it was like early 90s to like 2008 or something like that, were all affected. Anybody that got Army College Fund money was affected the same way. Of those, like tens of thousands, 80,000 plus people, 80 of us got paid.
Yeah, I'm well aware because I'm one of those 80,000 that was affected by it. And what's even more funny is that was my bonus. So $50,000 Army College Fund. I came in 2003, like we talked about. So it was still MGIB, not post 9/11. Then obviously my career spans through the change of post 9/11. And I think you're a fool if you don't opt for post 9/11 because it really is a quality program. And so I get out and I'm going to college and I'm like, hey, flight school chewed up like 99% of my GI Bill. I saved enough to do the voc rehab program, and I finished voc rehab with my bachelor's. I wanted to go on to do some more stuff like, hey, let me tap into my Army College Fund money that I have to, get CFI or multi or something done in the flight school realm that the GI Bill won't pay for. And they're like, we don't know what an Army College Fund is. So I spent months back and forth on phone calls trying to find somebody who worked in the education department at the VA. Like, hey, here's a copy of my contract, same separate page from the GI Bill that you had. Like, where's my Army College Fund money? So they end up giving it in a stipend at like $300 a quarter or something like that. Geez. And so I'm like doing quick math and I'm like, okay, so where's the other, let's just for, easy math sake, say I use 10 grand. Where's the other 40 grand you owe me? And to this day, they just can't tell me where it's at or if I'll ever get it. I'm like, I could use that for so many different things right now, like particularly in business. I mean, man, like there's so many different programs out there that 40 grand would go a long way to unlock a lot of shit for me. And I'm super pissed about it. I almost like feel like we should be able to sue the Army for breach of contract. I gave you 13 years of my life based on a fucking lie, you know? So I relate to your struggle.
Sorry, I'm bringing this back up for you.
No, it's good, man. It's good because a lot of people don't know about it. How many people are sitting out there in the same situation that we were in that didn't know how to do anything about it? It's no different than like when I applied for CRSC. It took me 9 months to get approved for CRSC. They just kept kicking paperwork back. And what they don't tell you is when you apply for CRSC, for those of you who are listening, is combat related special compensation. It's an extra tax-free money that you can get that actually comes from your branch, not from the VA. And the way you're supposed to submit it is the form. Each condition you're rated at, you need to submit a separate form, not put them all on one form. And they could never tell me that. Isn't it awesome how red tape works?
It's the inefficiency and truly like incompetence of our federal system behind the benefits for the military. It's quite mind-blowing. And I think it's very indicative of just the lack of care from a federal level for the citizens of the United States on whole. If you can't take care of the veterans, how can you say that you care about truly anybody else? Like, and that's one reason why there is like an awakening going on right now. People are quickly realizing that it's not, right versus left. It's not this politics versus that. It's truly incompetent elites that are financially benefiting from all of this incompetence.
Yeah. No,
and
I'm with you.
The rest of us. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that a lot of that's going to change. I also think AI is going to be a big part of it too. Which, as you're reading my intro, did you use AI to write up the?
I use AI to conglomerate all of your answers. Then I let it spit something out, and then I'm like, no, this doesn't work. And then I write it with my own, obviously, knowledge of you, the studying that I do of you, whatever. Just you still like AI is a tool. It's not the answer, right?
Yeah,
like
it's as are most things, right? That's the gun debate, right? Tools versus
it's all in how you use the tool, right? And so I use it to save a lot of time because I don't have a lot of money right now. Eventually I will have a lot of money and then I won't need to use it to save the time. But I digress on that.
We can get into that in a future conversation, but training AI is
it's so cool. It's so cool incredible. What it can spit out for you. Yeah. It's really cool when you start using it for things like, I don't know, long form content, transcripts to put out, descriptions or whatever. Like it's amazing how now it's your voice because it's me talking into a microphone, which is then transcribed, which AI just summarizes and then saves me a bunch of time on descriptions because I do one of these a week that comes out, sometimes 2 or 3. And like, who has time to sit there and get it all right? Use your brain to write the descriptions when it's all there for you. You just need something that can, make it shorter for you.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of goes right into a big part of what I do for my clients is asking them questions that they've never been asked before, transcribing everything and building an AI marketing avatar for them.
Boom.
And the amount of time that this saves not only me as a strategist, but them as say a functional medicine doctor to not have to come up with 30 blog ideas, but to just be interviewed, take that information, drop it in, build an AI avatar and be like, hey, create me a 12-month blog schedule, 52 blogs about that, draw the connections. Because I'm one of those people, I love a lot of weird shit. But I'm also like very good at marketing because I'm very, I enjoy psychology, kind of the same reason I love golf, right? It's all a lot of it's just psychology and how we think. But to take something like, say, the corruption within archaeology and how I love human history and we're not allowed to like ask questions about it. Take that same philosophy and apply it to a functional medicine doctor in Encinitas, California, and be like, hey, how do I, draw parallels between these two things? And AI is great for that. Like, let's draw these weird connections behind, hey, you're being censored, and you're not allowed to ask those questions because institutionally that doesn't fall within the narrative that is accepted. And so if you're going to maybe market yourselves as the outsider that is willing to look at whole body health and not just symptoms because you are a bigger picture person and things like that. And so like you start spitballing and brain and mind mapping with your AI. That's kind of like the big, if I were to just say like the biggest benefit to using say like honorable marketing versus I don't know Clio or one of the large marketing companies out there, they don't give a shit about things like that. And that's like what I love. That's like why people use me. That's why my clients never leave me, is because they understand that I will put in the legwork early on to build a system that will benefit them for literally the next decade.
Well, let's talk about how you got into founding Honorable Marketing and coming up with all these strategies. So the floor is yours. Just tell us that journey, and obviously facing those transition challenges, working as a PGA. What did you say? A pro shop amateur or whatever it was?
Yeah, I was an assistant golf pro. So I was giving. I was running outside services. So I was running junior camps, giving lots of lessons, running tournaments.
Fixing old guys' swings.
Yeah, man. That's, which I'm actually much, much better at today than I ever was then. But it was also like, again, I enjoyed the psychology of it. So giving golf lessons is great because you're not just like, hey, tuck that elbow in. You're also like, what are you thinking of while you're swinging? Like, what are the 37 thoughts you have going through your brain at that moment? Here, try just this one. Like, just clearing people's brains. And I do a lot of that in marketing too. It's kind of funny to think of all the parallels. But I loved working in the golf industry. It was fantastic. Best job I've ever had in my life. The problem is I just could not make good money doing it. And so with that, I actually left being a golf pro to go back to Dick's Sporting Goods because they offered me a promotion to be a manager. And then I got promoted again. And at that time, finished school. My grandfather, who I was referencing earlier, passed away. And I went back up north for the funeral and all that. It's really nice being by family. I was pretty lost, still trying to find myself. Just still going through it. This is when I'm at that like dark point. The government hadn't even given me that $28,000 check yet. I decided, hey, I'm going to go back up north for a while. And so I got a transfer with Dick's Sporting Goods, promotion and a transfer, all of it. So it's not like I was a bad employee. I was obviously a very good employee, very good at what I do. The fact that I was getting promoted so much, even in the retail world. And went up, I started working for Dick's Sporting Goods. They sent me to a few different locations to kind of like fix them. I was like the fixer, was kind of my job with Dick's. So I ended up at multiple stores and just got burnt out on it. And I was like, I can't be working 6 o'clock on Black Friday anymore, right? I can't be doing these crazy hours, doing overnights, building new planograms. Like, it's one of those things that even though you're good at things and even though you feel like it was awesome taking a mother who'd come in, like search for a baseball mitt for her kid and like fitting them and getting the perfect thing and the joy on their face and like knowing how much it's gonna like make this kid's week. Like, I loved that. But overnight planograms, working my way through a pack of cigarettes just to stay awake, not all that enjoyable. And so I got burnt out and I was playing golf with a guy. It's actually a lot of my stories is I was playing golf with this guy. And I used to go to his bar. There's like a bar, restaurant, golf. They had indoor simulators, a driving range in the back. Super cool location. And so I'm playing golf with this guy, and I had been to his place a few times, and it was not that far from where I lived. And he was kind of explaining to me the struggles of running this place. And I was like, I bet I could run it. He's like, shut up. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can run it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can make you a lot of money doing it too. And so I came over and I took it over. He was the owner. I came in as the general manager, and I was the first general manager he ever had. He was always kind of running it, trying to keep his hands around it. And I just revamped the whole thing and started marketing on social media. This would have been, I don't know, I got to do like some math, maybe like 2010 ish. And, so I came in, I took his entire company and increased his revenue in about a year and a half, increased his revenue by over $500,000 in a year and a half. Yeah. With no increased costs, no anything, just functionally, we just were much more efficient. Threw up some good slabs of paint, did some real good marketing, cleaned up the place, made the simulators work better. So just kind of a lot of grunt work, a lot of heavy lifting to make this place work and functional. Even found out that one of his business partners was screwing him out about $200K a year. I was like, hey, so I was looking through the books and
yeah, you might ought to pay closer attention to this guy. Like, come on.
Yep. And that actually was part of what led to my exit, was because that person didn't like that I shed some light on some dark things. And
well, of course he didn't, because you stopped his cash flow. Like, I probably wouldn't like you very much either if I was doing shady shit like that.
Yeah. But the one that brought me in, he loved me. He still sends me Christmas cards. But eventually, like, it was awesome. Again, couldn't make a whole lot of money doing it, but I learned a lot. It was one of those great experiences for learning, and it just had to get out of Buffalo. It was, I didn't feel like I was progressing as a human. And my sister lived out in New Mexico, and so she was breaking up with her girlfriend and was like, hey, what do you feel about coming out here? And I was like, you know what, pretty cool idea. And so I went and I took a cruise. I took a week-long cruise, and then instead of even going back to Buffalo, I just flew back, got in my car, and drove right to New Mexico. And got out there, no job, no anything, about 10 grand to my name, and was like, I'll figure it out, right? Like, I'll figure it out. And I was playing golf with a guy. Had an idea.
Playing golf.
He had an idea for a scooter rental company, and this was well before Bird and Lyme and all those type scooters. These were just like 50cc, because in New Mexico, under 50cc, don't need any special license, don't need a helmet, don't need, it's kind of Wild West out there a little bit. And he's like, so I tested out the market last year, and he's like, I had one location, and it was pretty good, made a little money. I'd like to build this out into something. And I was like, all right, well, how about this? I'll invest $5 grand. We'll buy more scooters, and I'll build out as many locations as I can, and we'll build a system around it. And so I basically ran that entire company off Google Sheets, like Google Forms, which ran a script, which exported into a PDF, sent it to them, sent it to us, digital signature, activated the GPS tracker that I'd put on the scooters. So it was like Make, but before Make, when I was actually kind of having to figure this shit out myself.
Yeah.
And super cool. In less than a year, I opened up 5 locations throughout New Mexico, anywhere from Cloudcroft, Ruidoso, Roswell, Albuquerque, Las Cruces. So I had all these cool like pop-up shops that we were just in tourist towns that we were renting these scooters, and you could buy the scooters for like $450, rent them out for about $80 a day. Those things were paid off in like 2 weeks. Yeah. I'd run them pretty ragged for the next like 2 months, and then I'd sell them for like $300-$400 when I was done to somebody that wanted a scooter, and put that shit up on Craigslist.
So incredible ROI on the scooters.
Yeah, great ROI on the scooters. Heavy workload on me though. I was traveling. Oh geez, I was working 8 hours a week at least for about a year doing this, just trying to build this business. And luckily I was a young guy. I was just figuring my shit out. But I found out at that time, like, my feet were hurting, my back was hurting. I was getting these like balls under my feet, stress through the roof, trying to figure out how to build this company, only to find out I had Lyme disease, and the VA never diagnosed me right. They thought I had fibromyalgia for a while. So I lived with Lyme disease for about a year and a half while building this company, doing all this. And then a buddy of mine in New York City calls me, who I've been best friends with this dude since we were about 5 years old. He's like, hey, my roommate's leaving. You always talk about wanting to come to New York. Do you want to come? And so I just gave the company to this financial backer, and I was like, here you go. Here's the system. Here's everything I did. Just, send me. I owned 10%. So I was like, just send me my checks every once in a while. Never got another check, obviously. That guy.
It probably failed, didn't it? Did it fail?
Yep, yeah. Failed pretty quickly. Because nobody else could run it like I was doing it, and nobody else was going to put in the effort that I was doing. So that company pretty quickly died. And I, because God is good. I mean, I truly believe God is good. He's got amazing plans for me. And the reason I've gotten to go through all this crazy experiences is because he's been molding me to do something bigger or better, right? Be better, right? It's literally on my shirt. He's been
I
molding
love
me to
that
be
shirt
better.
too.
I'll send you one. And so literally like 3 days before I'm getting in my car to drive back across country to go to New York City to go live with my buddy, because I had a free couch to stay at for a month, and it would get me out of New Mexico and running this company and beating the shit out of myself. And it was a marketing company that's paying pretty well, probably the most money I would ever make. It was at that point going to be the most money I've ever made. Plus having like commission opportunities in marketing to do a lot of the same stuff that I just built this guy's golf franchise or his golf location on. I built my scooter franchise on. It was marketing and kind of guerrilla tactics, and that was kind of the pitch of this company. It's called Main Street Hub. And so I get to New York, and I go in for my first day, and they're literally like, okay, your desk's over there. You got to go build it. I was probably like 15th, 16th employee at this new office in New York City. Company was already established in Austin and San Francisco, and they were opening the New York City office, and I was part of the New York City kind of opening team. It was a very early hire. And so I literally built my desk and put my computer together and put my phone system together, and then go through the training. I was cold calling, and I was selling online presence management, which to that company, it meant having a mobile website, having a Yelp page, optimized Google business listing, getting reviews, answering reviews, and a pretty limited social media presence, a few posts a week on your social media, only a couple $100. So not a massive price point, but also like extremely beneficial to these businesses that were doing nothing, and I was kind of the golf course guy. There's a lot of golf courses that would talk to me as being a former pro. And people always get like thrown off by saying like former pro. Even when you're like an assistant pro, you're still considered a pro. So I was always like, yeah, I'm a former golf pro, but they kind of understood it. Not professionals and playing on Sundays, but so I had all these golf courses that I was working with. I had a lot of restaurants, like even like a few mom and pop like auto shops that I worked with, a few fitness centers, and I was very good at sales, very good at talking with people, very good at being empathetic. I did not necessarily, we'll say, fit the mold of your proficient cold caller. They would always say you got to make over 100 calls a day. My numbers would always be like 20 or 30, but my like time on phone was higher than these people that were calling 100 people a day, because I was getting into meaningful conversations. I was like getting to know them. I was asking them what their goals were. I was like showing these people, just like that phrase, they're not going to care what you have to say until they know you care.
And I'm with you as somebody who worked in the insurance industry and cold called a lot. I had quotas of 250 phone calls a day, right? Like no questions asked. And so, there are definitely two ways to go about it. And the way that you went about it is by far and away, because I bet your close rate was extremely high as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
So much so that, they took me off the floor. Well, not totally off the floor, but I got to become the trade show rep. And so then they were shipping me all over the country. I was gone. I did like a little over 30 trade shows in 1 year. So basically every other weekend I was out of town somewhere at a restaurant convention here, or a golf convention there, or a auto repair shop convention here, small business expos. And so I'd sit there in my booth and play some cool games, get some people's attention. I'm an outgoing guy, so it's like pretty easy when somebody's walking by and be like, "What do you do?" And like you just like get their attention, you bring them over, start talking to them about how they look online, and start building it out. So it was awesome. I was very good at it. Made a lot of money doing it. We hit the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies list back-to-back years. So as a company, we were rocket ship taking off. By the time I left, about 2 years later, I was on a floor with over 400 people. I had a team of 60 people or so that I was working with. It was great. It was awesome. And then I met the woman of my dreams in New York City, little hottie up in Harlem. And her and I met, and she'd been in New York for about 10 years. She was kind of feeling like, all right, I'm pretty burnt out on this. It's time to go. And she grew up in the Upper East Side, and then like did college at a few other, or in Florida, and then went back to New York. So she wanted to do something else, and she works in high-end luxury hotels. So she was looking at a few locations in Florida, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm really good at what I do. So let me reach out. And I've hit up a few different companies in Miami that were in the marketing industry. And one of them kind of stuck out to me. And it was because they only had like a handful of reviews, and none of them were all that good. Their business listings weren't really optimized. They weren't doing anything on social media, and their website looked like okay on mobile. And I was like, how are you gonna be a marketing company and like miss the things that I do like well? And I talk about marketing all the time. And so I applied to be a sales director for them, and I didn't hear back for a few days. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm a top 3% salesman in New York City, and Miami, like a marketing company in Miami that's obviously like not doing that well, like isn't hitting me up. Like, what's going on here? So I emailed the CEO, and I was like, yo, dude, like, here's my resume. Here's what I do. Here's where you suck. Like, why you can't even like post on your social, and you're supposed to be a marketing company. And so I like ripped him apart pretty good. And he goes, so then I get an email back literally 20 minutes after I sent my email, and it said like, when can you be in Miami? And I was like,
well, this is awesome, because this is a prime example of just exercising your ask muscle, right? Like, you didn't hear back, so you're like, let me follow up with this dude and go straight to the source because I know what I'm worth. And I think it's a good lesson for people in business. Like, you never get anything unless you ask for it. So why are you afraid to ask for it? And I think also too, like, what you did when you reached out to him was not just try to get a meeting, but you pointed out everything. You showed him why you're valuable to his company by really pointing out all of his pain, which I don't think is done enough when we email people, right? Like, we are just trying to satiate whatever need we have for reaching out to that person because we want something from that person, instead of leading with something up front, which is, I think that's a great example. Like, you're a marketing company and you're failing here, 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 and here, and this is how I can fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. And he used that great example of like the cobbler's kid. Like, sometimes cobbler's kid doesn't get shoes, right? Like, ignore your own marketing because you're focused on your client's marketing. I'm like, I don't think that's going to lead to a whole lot of sales, though. I hate to tell you, like, social proof is real. Like, there's a reason that I have a bunch of great reviews and that I answer every single review. Like, I practice what I preach. There's a reason that we're super active on social media. I hate social media, but
I'm not a fan of it either, but I understand the leverage that you can get with it.
I have people. Luckily I've gotten to the point where I have people that run my social media for the most part. But I do the videos, and we could get into kind of like content creation ideas too, because I'm sure I got some cool ideas for you. But yeah, that guy had me down to Miami, wined me, dined me a little bit, took me out up to this like nice little rooftop bar, said let's talk some business. Hired me, brought me in as instead of being a sales director, I was the director of business development. So I came in and looked at all the systems, and just like I was saying, God is so good, right? Like, I was a fixer for Dick's Sporting Goods, and then I was a fixer for this business, and then I was a creator at this business, and then I was a sales guy's empathizer at this business, and kind of like all of those things kind of culminated a bit into being the director of business development at this place. Because then I get there and I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are just going off of an Excel spreadsheet and smiling and dialing. Like, you don't have a CRM, you don't have any follow-up mechanism, you don't have that. So I built all of that out, and then we hit the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies list, right? Like, you put the systems into place, and shit just tends to work out once you have those systems. So I did the same thing for them. Hit those growth milestones. And then my wife girlfriend at the time, wife now, got the dream offer to go out to California to work in basically one of the nicest hotels in all of America, the Waldorf Astoria Beverly Hills, and to be the director of guest relations there. So she's got an amazing Rolodex, my wife. Now she's pregnant with our second kid and not in that world anymore. But at that time, she's a baller. My wife is an absolute baller. And so I got promoted to the VP of client success instead of director of business development. And I said, all right, awesome. Here's my plan. Here's the system. but I'm gonna do it from California. Is that cool? And but he didn't want to lose me, and I kind of knew that. I kind of knew that he saw me as an integral part of this, and I knew that kind of whatever I would ask for at this point, I'd proven my worth. And he said, "Yeah, it's a great idea. While you're out there, open up an office." And so I went out there with the sales guy, with one of the sales leads, and hired a team of salespeople, and I was kind of doing my thing out there. Building up these systems, and was able to really increase our retention numbers, because that's the biggest thing in marketing. I mean, even at Main Street Hub, retention was like 7 months on a client, even if I had an amazing relationship with them. It's because I was relying on production people to actually produce, right? But not always the case. At this other company was On the Map Marketing, which, by the way, both these companies are amazing companies to this day, and I still have lots of friends at them, and none of us harbor any ill will. But even with On the Map Marketing, a website development SEO company, their still average client lifespan was only about 9 months. So if you could just turn that dial a little bit, it's really incredible. But average client lifespan at my company, we're only 5 years old. Average client lifespan here is 2.5 years. So like that was the dial I turned. It's like, what if I just never lost clients? Like,
so you significantly reduced churn.
Yeah, I really don't have much of churn. I have as many clients that have left me. I have more that have left me and come back, and been like 3-4 months later, been like, you know what, that probably wasn't a great idea. Like those people, yeah, they promised me the moon, but couldn't get someone on the phone. Whereas like I have your cell phone number, or
that speaks volumes about your company, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it's certainly a pride point of mine.
It should be. If it wasn't, I would be angry with you, because I mean, that's really what it's, I think there's sleazy businessmen, and I think you can do business in a way that helps people, where you make a lot of money and everybody benefits in like the best way possible, and I think you're a prime example of that. And just the fact that you have 2.5 years that clients will stay on with you, and you have more clients that have left and come back because you are so good.
Yeah. It's, what's cool about it, I think, more than anything, is I don't really have to sell that much. I get a lot of referrals. I can dip into one of my clients' Instagram and look at the people that are following them and being like, "Hey, do you want to look like him? I can help you." Like, that's an awesome sales tactic, right? And I make them a video, and I'd be like, "Yeah, look at this Google business listing. Look at yours. Like, this is somebody that has a system, that has somebody that's paying attention to and managing this, and yours looks like you don't care about your clients, because even when you get a good review, nobody answers it, right? So like, what is that? What is the emotion that you're sending somebody if they're like, hey, which one's gonna care about my legal case more? Probably the guy that gives a shit and displays it, right?
Right.
So like, selling on my end really like isn't all that difficult, which is great, because I'm able to go into situations being like, what do you feel comfortable spending on your marketing? And if they're like, oh, a couple $100, I'm like, okay, well, this is what I would do for a couple $100. Now, if you could spend this, I would do X, Y, and Z on top of that, and then that's a selling conversation, because you're like, does X, Y, and Z sound good? And they're like, yes, it's okay. Well, can you do that? Like, that's a so much better selling question than like, all right, my prices are $3,000 a month. And like hoping that you're getting a positive response out of it. But I also think that that's the way people want to be dealt with. Treat people how you want to be treated. My entire life is kind of revolved around just like, be a good, empathetic, compassionate human, and things will work out for you. But along those lines, like out in California, and I'll wrap up the story here. I know my story meanders a bit.
It's all good, man. It's good stuff.
And so I got to California. We opened up this office. Things are going well, still growing. And then one of the sales guys out there comes to me and says like, hey, this client of ours, he thinks that he could build a marketing company, and he wants me to run it for him. Do you think it's a good idea? I'm like, I've always been the type of person to jump at opportunities. I go, if you think it's a good idea and you think career-wise that would be better for you than being a sales lead here, then do it. Great. And so he does it. He comes back to me like 3 months later. He's like, dude, I'm way in over my head. Like, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. He goes, how much would it cost for you to come over and be the CEO of this company? And I was like, dude, you got to throw a lot of money at me. I go, it's got to be 6 figures and some. He goes, all right, well, let me go talk to him. Comes back, and he's like, here's an offer letter. Slides it. I'm like, that's good money. So
That'll do it.
that'll do it. I guess I'll do it. And because, like I said, I'm the type to jump at opportunities. And I even had one company that I interviewed with. They're like, "Hey, like I see that you only stay with companies for 3-4 years, 2 to 4 years, and then you leave. Like, why should we think that you are going to be a longtime member of our company?" And I had to be brutally honest with them, and I was like,
I'm not.
I might not be,
Yeah.
but I guarantee you will grow. Things will be
Right.
much better the day I leave than today. I go
What
and
an
so
awesome spot to be able to put yourself into, right? Like absolutely understanding what your value is and being able to explain away. This is why you're at that point more of a consultant than you are actually an employee for them.
you're making me feel really good. Like even like just getting this out is like making me feel good about my career choice, even though it's been like crazy and kind of all over.
I'm just trying to shed light on what I see your journey. I think that's awesome, man. I think a lot of people probably don't realize that about themselves, and then they do get stuck, particularly veterans who come out, right, and we've lost that identity, that sense of purpose. We grab onto the first thing that we find because it's safe and it provides that paycheck, and we find out we actually are good at it, and we do create value for a company. However, we're not compensated fairly for the value that we're creating. And you quickly reach the kind of the peak of what you're going to make in that company, but you won't leave because you're scared. And I think you'll just recognizing like, I did this multiple times for multiple companies and the result is the same every time. So if you want me, this is what I cost. I'm not going to guarantee you I'm going to be here for the long term because I will go to the next opportunity that moves me forward in what I'm doing because I know how valuable I am.
Yeah, and I try to not sound like a dick when saying it because I don't think I am. I just think that I would rather somebody be honest with me than to bullshit me.
For sure. Well, and
And
it's
I
just a
think
simple matter of you are following your blueprint, if you will, your core values and your beliefs, and you're solid and in who you are and what you're capable of. And so, that's all that really matters. You're just being true to yourself.
yeah, I hope so. I hope so, right? Um, but so I end up taking this job. I take the money, build a company pretty quick. Like I had 30 clients in like the first 6-7 months. Always operate in the black. Always kind of growing the production side. We would always have like 1 or 2 salespeople, but then production was like 10 people, right? Like I the same mentality that I have with this company. I don't have a sales team here. I am the sales team here, and I like it that way. My entire company is all production, all web developers, graphic designers, project managers, social media coordinators. That's my company. I am the sales team. And that company was built kind of similar, but we had a CEO that was running sales and I was running operations. And so I was just kind of keeping operationally our costs reasonable. So we were staying in the black, and about 9 months of steady growth here, things were looking very good for this guy who had an idea of like, hey, I think I could start a marketing company. And they weren't looking really good when he just had this one guy, but kind of as I was able to alleviate a lot of the operational stuff from him, he got to flourish on the sales side a little bit. And then all of a sudden checks started bouncing. And I remember the web developer coming to me and she's like, hey, my check didn't go through. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And it wasn't like totally shocking to me because they had told me the month before, like, hey, we're going to have to like split your payment in 2, which immediately was like, oh, fuck. Like,
Red flag, yeah.
red flag. But, also, like, I'm busting my ass. I'm building a company. I'm also under, there's the saying, revenue solves all problems, right? Like I felt like, hey, if we keep running really well, like obviously what we're doing is working. If we keep our foot to the floor here on the pedal, we'll be all right. And that was kind of my mentality. Maybe again a little naive, but I'm a trusting person. If somebody tells me something, I'm gonna believe them first until I shouldn't believe them. But then when a web developer's check bounces, that's when I was like, oh fuck. Like I start feeling it, the stress on it. Calling up some of the financial backers. The CEO is nowhere to be found, and can't get the main financial backer on the phone. Get the other guy, his partner, And he's like, yeah, apparently something's happened. I'm still trying to figure out the details. So now there's people ignoring my calls for like 3-4 days, and I'm still like trying to run this company. In the back of my mind being like, oh fuck, like
Right.
what's going on? Finally I get a call back from the CEO, and he's like, hey, just so you know, I'm not with the company anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? Get the other financial back on the phone, and he tells me all the details. This guy's been going through court for the last like 8 months, so like not long after they brought me on. We didn't want to tell you because we thought it would shake your confidence in the company, and
Yeah,
we
of
knew
course
that
it fucking would.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we knew that we had to just let you stay focused on what you do. Growing companies, kind of what you do. And so they just left me in the dark, only to find out this guy gets thrown in prison for 25 years for child pornography. And the other financial backer's like, well, but we're making money here. I got to get a loan from this guy in order to like catch us back up. Like a lot of the money went towards court and this. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, so when are my people going to get paid? He's like, well, they just got to wait for like 2 more weeks. I'm like, dude, I am not going to walk out in that room and tell all these people, hey, you have to wait 2 weeks to get paid because the financial backer's in jail for 25 years for child pornography. Like, do you want to come up here and talk to these people? And he's like, no, you got it. I'm like, you're not going to like how I handle this.
Right.
I go, if I handle this, you are not going to like how it goes. And he's like, well, like, just do the best you can. I was like, all right. And so I walked out there, and I was completely honest with every single person there. I was like, so guys, just what happened. I finally got some answers. And I told them, they're like, so do we have a job? And I said, I don't know. And they're like, well,
because you don't have any idea what's going on.
I was like, I've told you literally everything that I know. I go, I'm not hiding anything from you. I go, but just, again, being brutally honest with you guys, I am under the assumption that I will not be working here again, or will not be coming up to this office anymore. This is a Friday. I was like, Monday, I am going to be figuring out my next career path. I suggest that you all do the same. You can show up if you want, but I don't know what to tell you because I'm not in control of the situation. I wish I had better news for you. I will do everything I can to try and get you guys all the money that is owed you. So much so that I had one of the web developers. She was like crying. She had a baby. She was doing this. I literally paid her out of my own pocket some money. And I felt absolutely horrible about the situation. It was the worst time of my life. I actually have a picture. I should send it to you. I had the one and only panic attack I've ever had in my life. I took a picture of myself in that moment with that like self-awareness of like, I want to remember how fucking horrible I feel right now. I had just proposed to my girlfriend at the time. We had a wedding coming up. So we were planning for a wedding. So I had this like big financial expense here, this company that was supposed to be paying me a bunch of money. So it was not great times. And I had a panic attack, and it's a horrible picture of me, like tears, bawling, all of it. And I wanted to remember it. And this was October 2019. So I was like, oh fuck, I guess I'm gonna start my own company. So I had just signed this rather large law firm. That I signed on my own because the CEO didn't show up. I saw he had a meeting on the books. This is a multi-million-dollar law firm. I was like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to go. And so I literally walked into that guy's place, and I was like, so I don't know where this guy is, but I want to show you what I can do for you. And I gave him a contract under that company that I was working for, showed up at that guy's place on Monday and said, so here's the situation. I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to bust my ass. You're going to be my flagship client. I'm going to make you look incredible. You don't look that great right now. Give me a couple months. Trust me. Let's start small. I'll build you the site, and we'll go from there. And that guy is still a client to this day. That's
awesome, because I was going to ask how that first of all, the balls you have to just do that, right? Again, exercising that ask muscle, because I'm sure that was probably
he was
one of the hardest.
He was like, what the fuck are you saying? I was like, at least you know I'm honest.
right, yeah, sitting there like. So how did that conversation? Obviously, it went well because he's still a client to this day. But like how did that conversation go?
Yeah, I went in with kind of because I'd met him and sold him initially, and so he knew me. Kind of knew, I'm pretty outgoing and like directed to the point, and I chalk that up to the military. I'm like, I'm a little blunt, and I kind of like say that to people. And so like when I'm like, yeah, you kind of look like shit here, but this is what I would do to fix that. And this was well before AI. So this is like, I'll hire a content writer to do this, and I'll get a developer to do that. And I was teaching myself how to build websites, because technically I didn't really have the skills, but I had a lot of experience in like strategizing and layouts and Figma designs and all that stuff. But I was like, I've got the resources to do it. I go, but like that company is no longer. I'm going to start my own company. You're going to be my flagship guy. I'm going to make you look incredible, not only because I want you to succeed, but also because I want to use you to show you off to other people as like, this is the work I do. I go, it's a win-win situation. I understand it's not cheap, but you have all of me. I don't have a single other client. You have me. And he's like, well, it's still cheaper than hiring an internal marketing person. I was like, you're right. Internal marketing people are about 80 grand. I'm not 80 grand a year. So, I go, so yeah, you're 100% right. I go, so it's a win-win. I go, I'm going to bust my ass for you. And he's like, all right, I'm going to trust you. And me and this guy got to go to a bunch of Christmas parties, for his company and everything like that. And, him and I are still good friends and clients. Andy's still a client today. So, but even when starting this company, I had a little side hustle in Miami called #Smart, and I would go into people's houses and set up their smart homes, like their Alexa and their Google Home and things like that, because people didn't intuitively kind of understand how to hook all those things up. It's a cool little side hustle. Didn't make like a lot of money doing it, but I think my brain's kind of always thinking of what's some cool value I can present. How can I serve, right? And so I already had this LLC #Smart. And so my marketing company was #Smart Marketing, which, we still own the URLs, and, our email is still, you can either email honorable.marketing or #-smart, all still goes to the same place. But I operated under that for a couple of years. And then I just had to get out of California. I had a kid, all dealing with COVID in California was insane. It's way too restrictive out there for businesses. So I was part of that 1 million person exodus out of California and all the businesses and all that. I was one of those. So I'm in Greenville, South Carolina now. It certainly suits me and the family lifestyle a lot better. But when I was coming out here, I also decided it was time for a little refresh. And so I went to all my close friends that I've had for 2, sometimes 3 decades. And I told them, hey guys, like, give me the top 10 words that you would think of when you hear my name. And smart was not on the list. So so we stopped being #smart, but on 9 of the 10 said you're honorable. That you show up, you get shit done, you're an honorable guy. And that's when we became Honorable Marketing. And we've just been growing and kind of evolving, and my team is not only a bunch of veterans here in the US, but also graphic designer and a web dev in Venezuela, and I have 2 production assistants in Nairobi, Kenya, and I got a developer in Indonesia and a social media guy in Mexico City, and then a few veterans kind of sprinkled here across the US. So we're a cool company. We're efficient. We truly love doing what we do. And the reason I work with a lot of attorneys and medical professionals, when I say medical professionals, I only mean functional medicine. Maybe osteopathic doctors worked in there, chiropractors worked in there. But the people that are outside of mainstream healthcare, because I think that is, it's not healthcare, it's sick care. And I believe that there's much better resources out there in the functional medicine world. I'm in good shape. I don't go to the VA, and there's a reason for that. I don't think getting pills thrown at you is the right answer. And so I feel morally that I'm really positively impacting the world by drawing more attention to functional medicine. I don't think that there's any level of competition between, say, like 2 different functional medicine providers in an area, because, if you search Google Trends under functional medicine over the last 15 years, it's like an exponential growth curve. I'm not the only one that realizes how fucked up our medical system is. Most people do. And so a lot of people are looking for those alternative sources. And so the more of those people I can draw attention to and awareness around and make them look fucking incredible online, like, the better. And then I also work with a lot of attorneys. And, I've fired a handful of attorneys because there's a lot of money grubbing, ambulance chasing douchebags. And they don't really fit the the vision that I have for this company. And so I work with a lot of family doctors, a few different PIs, so personal injury guys that are, their big thing is holding corporations and insurance companies accountable for their policies, and really helping out people in their community that are their lives are completely changed by an accident, and ensuring that insurance companies take care of them. I work with a few different family law, because what more like honorable calling in law can it be to restore the family and to keep things as amicable as possible through those very difficult situations. And a few different civil rights attorneys and workers' comp attorneys and workplace harassment attorneys, and let's hold these people accountable if you're made to feel anything other than truly valued at your job. And so those are kind of like the main verticals, and then also a lot of veteran-owned businesses, right? Like if you're a veteran, I'm gonna hook you up.
I love the theme here, going against the larger societal systems that are corrupt. I love that. I think that's particularly in the functional medicine space. And there's some things I want to talk to you about offline, because I think you might be able to help me in some passion projects, if you will. But dude, amazing. So how big is Honorable Marketing now? How many clients do you have total?
Let's see. I gotta look over at my board here. We tend to keep it pretty light, and we grow reasonably. So right now we've got 47 to different varying levels.
So are you on Inc.'s fastest growing companies again?
No, we are not, and I don't even really care to be. Honestly,
because it sounds like the same amount of growth, right? Like, well, probably not as fast as the bigger companies, right? Because you said you've been around for 5 years.
Yeah, the way Inc. Lists work is it's a 3-year running total. So I could probably put in for it. I haven't applied for it or anything like that. Probably.
I thought it was something that they just came along and picked you because you making waves in the space. I didn't know you had to apply for it. That's kind of lame.
You have to apply for it and basically like submit financials. It's a 3-year growth number. So would we make it? Probably. Actually, I know the numbers. Yeah, we would.
But just proof that you're doing, the same thing that you've done repeatedly, and you've landed in. Now you're just doing it for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm not that greedy a guy. Like I want to be sure that my family is well taken care of. I want to be sure that I'm able to leave a legacy of my last name, of having really good kids. But I'm also not interested in working 80 hours anymore. Right? Like I absolutely love being a father. It's the best job ever. I said being a golf pro is the best job ever before. It's the second best job. I absolutely love hanging out with my family. My wife and I, we are very present and truly love serving each other. We're good Christian family. We believe that the family is the most important unit. Way more so than government or business or any of that. So that is really my first job, is being a great dad, being a great husband. And so when it comes to like growth, sure, like I would like to triple the size of my company, but I want to do it in a few we'll say like variations in ways. We have a lot of our clients we do everything for. You need graphic design, you need SEO, you need this. We are your one-stop shop for it. Lately, I've been coming on as a CMO in more companies, where I kind of come in and I build the system, and it's more like here's your system, and I do more consulting, which I think when I say like I want to triple the size of my company, I think it's probably going to be more of that and less of the do everything for you. But I do like to have that as an option. So even on our website, there's like tab for online presence management. There's a tab for CMO services, because I think that I could provide a ton of value in both respects. If you don't really want to invest any time into it, awesome, we got you. If you want to just be better at what you're doing, awesome, I will teach you to be better. And I will build the system to help you be better. And then I will consult to make sure you are getting better. Meet with you every few weeks. So I think that's probably where we're going as a company more. And I also I'm not like in a huge sales rush either. Like I really like the fact that I can be referred somebody. I can look them up online, take 10 minutes out of my day to make them a video about like, hey, I would do this, and this. Like, you don't need me to do that. I would just do it. and
Yeah.
like go put some
You
product out
gotta.
in GMB,
I
right?
love the
And
tiered approach with the do it yourself, the done with you, the done for you, right?
mhm.
Like that traditional offer, and you're looking into scaling more at the do it yourself consulting role because that's just way less time consuming.
Yeah, yeah, and I still provide a shit ton of value. You know, you will still look better than all of your competitors if I just tell you what to do. And because I've even had some people be like, "Yeah, like this is awesome. I don't have time to do all this," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, here's a military veteran buddy of mine. He has a company called Telehelping. Super awesome dude. He has VAs, and these VAs know the system that I built, and they will run 90% of it for you. Or you can hire me, and my people will run all for you. Like you have options if you still want to maintain that control and like have a in-house person that's like a VA. Awesome, go this route. If you just want us to do it for a while and you could see how we do it and then take it over yourself in 6 months, great. I'm also cool with that. Like whatever's better for your business, I'm also all in for.
I love it, man. And it speaks to like what you said about just maintaining the core values of your company and then not being so greedy because you do have a buddy that has this VA, telework thing. You pushing him business because it's an option for others. You don't need it all, you know?
Yeah, and I I truly believe that the more local that we can make everything, the better. Like international and global in your workforce, but local in your impact. I think that that's really the future of where we're going. I don't think that like Amazon is going to be the dominant force for I don't know, maybe another decade tops. Like I would say if I would like ballpark, I'd say I don't know, 3 to 5 years because there should be 50 Amazons. You know, somebody else is going to figure out a way to be in that market as well. You got like Public Square was an interesting option, which that's very like patriotic American companies that were kind of all coming together to be like a conglomerate Amazon. I think we'll see more and more of things like that. I also think that on the political side, people are waking up. I'm optimistic. I don't think that this elites versus the rest of us can really go on that much more. I think that the awakening is on. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't think like any world order can take us over because I think too many people are awake now, and I think that's really like the great awakening that's going on right now. Which they could try to like block that hashtag on TikTok and Instagram or whatever it was. They like blocked Great Awakening hashtag. All you're doing, you're trying to like put a genie back in a bottle. Too many people will get it. Too many people like hear,
Well, they're just tired of the double standard and they can see it now, right?
yeah,
Like it's just all things done in the dark will come to light, and it's finally come to light, and there's no putting that, like you said, that genie back in the bottle. It's out. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Like I don't know when you'll launch this, but I mean all the P Diddy stuff that's going on right now. Like, did you not think like a lot of people didn't think that type of stuff was happening? Like, you sure you didn't think
That's
that,
just
or
I
maybe were
think
you just
that's
like cognitive or what is it? I was like just putting blinders on and thinking like, okay, well, you know, people are generally good. I don't know if people are generally good or not, but I do know that there are some elite people that are much more concerned with power accumulation and monetary accumulation, and there are a lot more of us than there are of them. And it also blows my mind. Like we watched the Hunger Games, we watched V for Vendetta, you watch the Matrix, and you always like root for the populist, right? The populist people, and yet for some reason people are like, no, I'm sure that politician's a good guy. I'm like, are you sure? Maybe not. I actually saw a really interesting thing. I don't want to get this too political, but the one direction that I saw the other day that's really like blowing my mind, and I'm thinking of like some way to incorporate into some of our own marketing. But did you know that there were actually 12 amendments in the original Bill of Rights, and 2 of them were not ratified? And there's a push right now for one of them to be re-ratified, or to be ratified, I guess, for the first time. And that is that every representative could not represent more than 50,000 people.
I think that would be a fantastic start.
Meaning
without a doubt.
Instead of having like, what is it, 400 and some odd representatives, there'd be 6,000 representatives, which immediately you can't you can't have that many more lobbyists to corrupt that many people, because already right now it's 6-1 lobbyists to representatives in DC. 6-1.
The lobbyists, and they all need to go away too. Money in politics completely needs to go away.
But people are also waking up to it, and that's one of the things that I think is great for functional medicine. It's one thing I think is great for local good attorneys. That's one thing that I think is great for mom and pop shops. I think that we are going to, and there's nobody talking about this, which I do find like a little weird. A lot of people are very doom and gloom about things. World Health Organization and the WF is going to take over the world and things like that. I don't think that. Maybe I'm naive, but I think that there's just too many of us that are like, fuck right. You and your bullshit. That's probably not going to work. And I'm just super optimistic to see how much AI is going to solve a lot of these problems, and how much small business and people just coming together can really, change the world. And so I love working with small businesses, and I think people could probably tell from my mentality, why that is.
Yeah, I love it. Paul, brother, tell everybody where they can connect with you online, how they can get to your services if they're interested in contacting you about running their marketing, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so honorable.marketing is the website. I'm nice, always ahead of the curve on things. So we're using a .marketing instead of a .com. I'm on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram under Honorable Entrepreneur, and just about everywhere. So I went and snagged all those handles. Probably the most active ones that I'm on. My team does most of my Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. You could probably hit me up on LinkedIn. That'd probably be the first one I'd see you. Or I'm not putting this out to everybody, but if you are a business owner and you actually like kind of a pragmatic approach and want to sit down and bullshit over some ideas like this, I put my calendar link on my website. Now I have a VA who checks these people and validates that it is a good meeting before I take it. So don't go thinking that you're some salesperson trying to grab time on my calendar to sell me some software. It's not going to work. But if you are a business owner and you actually you kind of like how I handle marketing in this pragmatic way, I'd be truly honored to have that opportunity to sit down and talk to you about some of the stuff. I think it's truly my favorite part of what I do, is meeting with somebody who is excited about growing their business and showing them the way to do it. So you can even just grab a time right in my calendar.
I love it, man. Paul, thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, download, help us get this in front of 1 million veterans and hopefully save some more lives. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Paul. I'm not even going to try your last name again because I've already forgot how I pronounce it, but Paul from Honorable Marketing. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.